Have you ever wondered where the problems in the world today would exist if we had deeper connection to ourselves, others, and the environment and acted from that place? Welcome to the Conscious Action Podcast with your host, Brian Berneman, who believe that connection is the key to taking conscious action as individuals and creating a better world. We are here to raise awareness and inspire meaningful action by sharing stories, knowledge, and conversations with thought leaders and change makers. From sustainability to well-being and everything related to conscious living, our mission is to empower you to be the change that you want to see in the world. Welcome everyone to a new episode of the Conscious Action Podcast. I am Brian Berneman, your host, and I have the pleasure to be joined all the way from the US by Jeannette Cieszykowski. Thank you so much, Jeannette, for being here with us and sharing this space. And for everybody that is listening and watching us, what can you hear about you? Who is Jeannette?
Who is Jeannette? Well, you make that sound so intriguing, and I hope I can follow up with an intriguing story. But Jeannette Cieszykowski, she is someone super passionate about helping people reconnect with their love for life using Feng Shui. It was not always the case, but Feng Shui has been a part of my life for the last 10 years. So I am somebody who has just found a big purpose in sharing the art and science and manifestation tool, if you will, of Feng Shui with people so they can reconnect with their life and love for life.
Beautiful. You know, I want to ask you a little bit more about how you got into that. But one of the things that I remember that once one of my teachers told me was that when you find something that, you know, really supports you or that you love, you want to share it. And it seems like, you know, with Feng Shui, that's what happened to you. So can you tell us, just so that we get an understanding on how you got into it, can you tell us a little bit your journey into it?
Yeah, so this will be a mix. This story is a nice mix of like how I came into it and also how I've used it to get results. So it's a little bit about me and also not bragging, just saying this is kind of what can happen when you use it. So where to start? So growing up, I was around a lot of people, adults, who I just always noticed they're always complaining about something. We were fine. But, you know, and I was like kind of middle class and everybody around me, I just felt like everybody was always sad or depressed or anxious about the future and this and that. And like, there was no passion for life. There's no dreaming about the future. Everything was, how can I save money? We don't make enough money. It was just always stressful. And it was just something I always noticed. So la-di-da, we're going about life, right? We go to high school. I make all these notes about all these stressed out adults. I go off to college and, in college, I got a master's in landscape architecture, and the original Feng Shui comes from forms Feng Shui, which is 5,000 years ago, studying the landforms. When I stumbled into this idea of harnessing energy from our space to use to our advantage, I started Googling it, and there's forms Feng Shui, which is very ancient and old, and now there's this Western Feng Shui where you Google and it says like how to attract more money and more love and better health and all these things. And as a college kid, I was like, cool, I can manifest some more boyfriends and a lot of money and life can just be easy breezy, like, you know, and so this was really exciting to me. And so I started dabbling here and there, and dabbling became a way of life. I started Feng Shuiing all of my apartments, my friends' apartments, and after graduating, I moved to Dallas for a landscape architecture position. And of course, Feng Shuied my apartment, which was BTB Feng Shui at the time, which is like putting your water feature in the north for career success and putting something gold in the southeast for financial success. And it was great. I got the job that I originally thought I wanted. And very quickly, I realized that this master's in landscape architecture, everybody was like, Jeannette, you talk too much. Like, sit down, do your work. And I was like, I don't think this is for me. And I really went into what a lot of people I'm finding out go through, because now a lot of them are my clients. But this depression of like, I've worked so hard to get to this point and this is not for me. Like, and I have no idea how to pivot. I have no idea what my purpose is because it's always been this path. And that's, I had all this student loan debt and I had just done a freaking 5-year master's in it, right? So I was like, I've never thought about anything else. And so I used Feng Shui. I adjusted my space. I gave my space attention with intention, which is what I like to say, like how you use Feng Shui. And I gave it with the intention of help me find some clarity here. Like, this is all I've ever known. I heard that you could get paid to talk, which was sales, right? I was like, oh, okay. So I could get paid to talk. Like, but how do I go about this? How do I do this? I don't know anything about business. I don't know anything about sales. And that's where most people get in their own way, right? They're like, I don't know anything about this. I can't pivot. I can't try something new because I know nothing. But when you Feng Shui and you use it in your space and you set out this intention, life is more serendipitous. So things started to fall into place. I put that intention out there. I started connecting and networking with other salespeople that came to our landscape architecture office. And I started asking, and like, without, you have to be politically correct and like appropriate to your current job. But I was a little bit like, what do you think about me getting into this? Or have you heard of any openings, and long story short, of, something comes up, somebody's retiring. I specialize in lighting. It was always my niche. So I went into lighting sales. So I just ended up being the lighting salesperson selling to architects, designers. So it was a perfect fit, right? Just this serendipity of here's the next step. And then that a year into that, I was already exceeding my quota. I was doing really well, which was nice. But I was like, is this it? I feel like I already kind of maxed out. But I didn't want to be this person that jumped jobs. I didn't want to do that. And so I just Feng Shuied my space again. I Feng Shuied with send me like what's meant for me, my highest good, the highest good of others, like let's rev this up, spice this up, like something's off, but I don't really know what. Like, so Feng Shui, higher power, like whatever. You don't pray to Feng Shui, but it's just sending out that like intention into your space. And then I ended up getting recruited for my dream sales position. The company found me. They said, we've heard great things. And I ended up signing up for that. And so along the way, as you use Feng Shui, these things, this is an example of in my life, these seamless things, these next steps, they just show up. These people, they just show up. I totally glossed over the fact that I had this goal of paying off all my student loan debt before I was 30. So I got it done in 6 years instead of 20, which is what the loan was. And then in between jobs, I was so scared to go into sales. And yet I still, with the help of like this energy and this intention and this law of attraction and this Feng Shui stuff, I negotiated a very large raise as I transitioned jobs. So, but financially, helpful people, health-wise, like when you use Feng Shui, it all just helps you get further faster. Mm-hmm. So that's how I kind of stumbled into it and how I've used it along the way and how it's gotten me to where I want to go. Well, I guess, yeah, the end of that story is I was in the dream sales role and COVID happened. COVID came around and I got let go. And I thought, I'm at the top of my game here, and so if I can do this, I had also just moved. So I had new Feng Shui around me, new environment. And very quickly, I had gotten very good at setting the intention, Feng Shuiing my space and saying like, help give me clarity, help bring me the answers. And within I was upset for like a day. And then 2 days later, I said, I'm going to go start my own Feng Shui business because I just live and breathe this stuff.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing all of that. You mentioned that word serendipity. I often use the word synchronicities. Things happen, and it's just we sometimes don't understand it. We don't know how things happen. They happen. And when we have, as you're saying, that attention to the intention, it's easier to allow ourselves to see and to allow the unfolding for that. So I wanted to ask you, before we get a little bit deeper into it, for people that have never ever heard the word Feng Shui. I think that some people have heard it, but perhaps they don't know what it is. Can you briefly explain like what it is, how, like, and especially you mentioned there's these two different styles of Feng Shui. So if you would have to say kind of like, this is, Feng Shui 101, super basic, this is what it is.
Yeah, I think what I notice when people say, oh yeah, Feng Shui, I've heard of it. It's like where you put your couch. That's usually people's like extent of it. Feng Shui is the study of how your environment affects you. Whether that is the macro scale, which is forms Feng Shui, that 5,000-year-old study of it, and then a little bit younger, but still thousands of years old, is something called Yin House Feng Shui. People used to study where to bury their ancestors so that they'd receive ancestral luck. So again, how is this environment supporting the deceased in the past so that they are honored and bring their descendants who are still alive luck? And then it goes more, it's a little bit more complicated than that, but you have this macro, and it narrows into, then you have 8-mansion Feng Shui, which is like, what are my lucky directions? How can I build using 8-mansion? Then we have Flying Star Feng Shui, which is based on when your home was built and the direction it's facing. Your home essentially gets an astrology chart. So similar to how you see an astrology chart where your Saturn is and your Sagittarius is and your Capricorn is, and astrologer reads your birth chart. Classical Feng Shui with Flying Star technique is a birth chart for a house. And then there's like the most micro, which I kind of call law of attraction Feng Shui, which is this new Western BTB, where you have a grid over your house and each square of the grid is a different direction and different category of your life. That like north being career, southwest being relationships, etc. That's the most Googleable. But Feng Shui, ultimately, it's how the study of how your environment affects you, whether you're looking at the imagery on your wall, the amount of plants in your house, the lake in your backyard, or the cemetery in your front yard. You can get big picture or small, but Feng Shui is studying this unseen energy.
I love that. It's one of the things that for me, I explore a lot, and I have been exploring throughout my life. And one of the topics that I talk a lot about as well here on the podcast is about interrelationship of everything, and how we actually have an effect on each other, how we have an effect on the environment, how the environment has an effect on us, and how growing up, my mom is an astrologer, so it's an understanding on.
Is she really?
Yes. So it's an understanding on, kind of like these are some of the energies that are there. And one of the things that I love that you just mentioned is like in this more Googleable, it's the same as, like people reading the horoscope. And my mom used to say like, oh, well, you can read the horoscope, but that doesn't tell you anything about you and your specific situation. Like, use it all good, but it doesn't give you your specific situation and your specific dynamic of the energies. And with that, one of the things as well that she used to tell me was that it's not a fixed thing. Like, it's not that, oh, you have, Saturn here and you have, like these planets in this house, therefore this is going to happen to you. No, there's the potential of energies, and there's the potential of riding the waves or getting crushed by certain waves. And it's how do we use the energies that are available for us to actually enhance our life, our well-being in all aspects of life. And I think that from what I hear you say from Feng Shui, it's a similar thing. Perhaps it's not taken into account the planets and a personal like life level, but it's more of, as you're saying, the environmental, spatial relationship and how those energies actually are interacting with us.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. We are so on the same page. I have so many. How cool to have a mom who's an astrologer. I would like eat that up. But that's a little bit I want to meet her. I with BTB, yeah, it's like the horoscopes that you read in Cosmo. It's maybe even a little bit better. That's the Cosmo horoscopes are pretty cheeky. But BTB, I just kind of got to the point. I accomplished so much using it. I got so far quickly because I was using it. So there's definitely a place. But before I became this person that guided people through this process, I was like, there's got to be something more specific. BTB is a little bit one size fits all. And where Feng Shui gets a bad rap is people are like, well, I put the water feature in the north at my front door. Like, why didn't I get a job? Why didn't more money come in? And it's because that there's this more specific layer like astrology, where if they were to say in December, Sagittarians get a hit of money, and they're like, no, I didn't. There's this other layer of like the actual dynamics of when your house was born and the direction it's facing. And the numbers that transpose onto the floor plan that I study, similar to an astrologer, are from the planets and the stars, like that calculation. So it's always changing, it's always evolving. So my clients, we have like a base similar to a birth chart would have a base, but then you have an annual update because the energy is shifting. So that one water feature staying in the north forever is not going to solve all your problems, because then why wouldn't like everybody could just put a water feature in the north and be rich, So it's dynamic. All energy is dynamic. And then you are exactly right with astrology. So it's funny, this house I'm in, my grandmother passed away. So I moved from Dallas to Ohio to upgrade it, update it, take care of it until we decide what to do. And so therefore I didn't get to pick, right? I advise everybody, do the Feng Shui before you move into the house. Look at the Feng Shui before you move into your house. Well, I didn't do that here. This is kind of a family favor, and whatever the Feng Shui was, I'm coming in, that birth chart Feng Shui. And then I add in water or wood or fire in the spaces that need it. But a Feng Shui master would say, do not move into that house. Do not move into this house. The worst energies at the front, the most difficult energies at the back. Don't do it. So to your point about how your mom says it's not predictive, it's here's the potential of what could happen, but here's how you can ride the wave so much easier. And so a lot of people are like, I don't want to Feng Shui. I don't want to find out because I don't want to be told I have to move. I don't want to be told I have to knock down walls. And it's just not the case. It's how do we use the energy to our advantage? How are we using the stars in astrology to our advantage and those monthly cycles? And then it's the exact same for your space. How am I using the energy in the different directions to support my career goals, to support my love goals, to support my health goals?
That's beautiful. And, I was interested in asking you, so does it matter, like for people that might be listening, it's like, is there a difference between a house and an apartment? Like you're up a little bit, or, like how does height perhaps like influence that? Does it matter the fact that, like you're in a building with multiple people, like do you need to Feng Shui the building as well?
So I do look at, so if somebody's asking me before they move in, I do look at the overall like campus of the apartment, and I look at all the buildings situated. If they're in that apartment and it is what it is, I look at macro, but I look at what can we control, which is the micro, which is your apartment. You do want to, it's so funny, more and more apartments, especially out here, this complex is getting built. And it's a building. So for people just listening, like imagine 2 tall towers and then like a sky link. And then there's like a hole in it. And then like 7 stories down, there's another sky link. And so I think about those people on the top sky link with nothing underneath them. There's just this hole. And I was talking to, it's funny, I was like getting my nails done in the buildings getting built like next to it. And I was like, I really hope they're making that Skylink like a gym or a pool, because the resident having nothing underneath them, there's this hole. they're not grounded. There's no grounding. There's no connection to the earth. So it's okay if there's people underneath you. It's okay if there's buildings underneath you. There are different meanings to what floor you're on, and different floors are better for your personal energy. But in general, it's absolutely okay to be in a condo, to be in a penthouse, to be in an apartment with people around you. You do want to look at if you're in an apartment, like in New York, what are the two buildings on either side of you? Are you the shortest one? There's often when that's the case, when you're a building sandwiched between two tall buildings, it can lead to like depression and feeling overshadowed, feeling overpowered. So there's some things that are very symbolic that way. But in terms of just an apartment versus a house, both are good. One is not necessarily better than the other. Because it depends on, again, what's around you at that macro scale. You could live in a house, but have like a power plant in front of you, and you can live in an apartment with a lake in front of you,
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, this I think one of the things of making sure that, again, it's not one size fits all. Everything is about each individual space, is each individual people, and that interrelationship as well. So I want to understand a little bit, like when someone, let's say, decides to move somewhere, and they're like, oh, I want to take, like into consideration the energies of the space. Would that be, before they even choose a space to move into, would that be the time to say, okay, I'm going to work with someone like you that works with Feng Shui to try to understand potential places? Or would it be more like, okay, I found the place, now let's do Feng Shui?
No, you definitely, most people don't. I even have some clients, they're so funny. Like they're regular clients, and then they decided to buy a house and they just got so excited and they bought it and they didn't let me look at it. And I'm like, ugh. But no, you definitely, because people think, oh, it's just so funny. I'm so passionate about it. I could like talk forever about why that's a mistake. And they just get so caught up in like in the rush of it, especially these past couple of years, right? With this crazy real estate market. But if you can, you want to hire a classical Feng Shui using a flying star technique consultant, not BTB. BTB would be after the fact. Maybe some of them are skilled enough that they would help you before, but I would say what I do with my clients is I have a package where you give me 3 floor plans. Like you're looking for a house, you're looking for an apartment, and you've narrowed it down to 3 or 2. And you just hand those over to me, and I quickly do the chart, the natal chart, if you will. And we've already discussed your goals. Like if this is not a long-term house, if this is just something you build a business, turn a quick profit, if you're struggling with your health and it's a big priority and that's why you're moving in the first place, I look at the natal chart before you buy it or before you sign a year contract, right? And I say, yeah, this one supports your goals. This one supports your intentions. This one kind of does. This one doesn't. And so we do that prior to, especially when you're buying a home, I could save you millions of dollars and lots of pain and heartache. Now, there's no home that's perfect Feng Shui. It's impossible. Even if you build from the ground up, I suppose if you just have all the money in the world, you could probably make it close to perfect. But it's all about like what supports the goals, and then how do we work with some of the obstacles.
And with that being said, that also means that people need to also understand their goals and their values and their intentions as well, right? Because if they don't have that, how do you understand which kind of environment is going to support that?
Yeah. At the beginning of any of my packages, like services where we were working one-on-one together, or even the DIY stuff that I offer people, there's always an intention setting portion at the beginning. Because what I noticed as I was self-studying and self-educating for the first 7 years before I got, like certified in this, and was using this BTB Feng Shui and again, just coming across all these people that didn't have consistent luck with it. Again, like let's use the analogy of I put my water feature in the north. I didn't see any increase. I didn't see anything else. Well, I think the reason BTB worked for me so well is because I'm very good at knowing where I want to go. And if I didn't know, like right when I was sort of in the spiral of anxiousness and depression of like landscape architecture is not for me, but it's all I've known. Now what? I have still had clear intention of like how to communicate where I needed help. But all of Feng Shui, you know, even if everybody listening just went and started with BTB and Googling and DIYing it, you have to know, like, when you place that water feature, why do you want more money? And what does more money mean? And do you want more money from your job? Do you want more money from the sky? You know, like a lot of people say, I want more money. And it's like, well, how are you managing your current money? Do you have more than you think? Or, oh my gosh, the people looking for love. Like, are you actually pretty clear on what you want in a partner and what you offer? And it's a very important aspect to have this conscious aspect or like conscious placement, right? Again, and that's why I use that phrase so much, giving your space attention with intention. Feng Shui is so much more powerful when, and it can work without it, but it's so much more powerful because then you know what you're looking out for, right? Imagine you're moving plants, you're placing fire element, you're placing earth element, but you don't know what you want. How did you know that person you just met at the park wasn't the person you're supposed to talk to get to the next thing? If you don't know where you're trying to go. So presence and consciousness and intention is super important in this process.
So for those that perhaps, like, I know that you have some things that you can show us now to understand this Feng Shui like chart. So can you show a little bit what would be some of the elements so that we can see it visually, and for anybody that is not watching us and that you're just listening, if you want this part to be a little bit more dynamic, watch this part on YouTube so that you get the understanding on what Jeanette is going to explain to us.
Yeah, so here is, for anybody super, super new who just sees it, just always thought it was about which way your couch was facing. So this is that BTB. You see this grid, correct? Yeah. Okay. So this is an example of a Bagua map from the BTB aspect. And this is what I mean by this would be north, career, south, fame, east, family, west, creativity. And each of these has their own elements associated with it: water, earth, wood, fire, and so on. And this is that like law of attraction Feng Shui. And it's a great place to start if people want to start dabbling. And then as I thought, surely this is more specific. Surely there's something more consistent to this and ways to get consistent. I was getting pretty consistent results because of my clear intention, but this classical Feng Shui is literally looking at the years and the months, and it's just much faster acting.
And this really looks like, you know, as someone that has seen astrology natal chart, like this looks like that.
Yeah. So instead of seeing Saturn, Jupiter, 12th house, 2nd house, and those numbers, we see we as in classical Feng Shui consultants, we see numbers 1 through 9. And each of these numbers represents an element, a body part, an emotion, a person in the family, your personal energy number. So similar to how an astrologer can look and say, Mercury represents communication. It's in your 2nd house. That I think has something to do with money. I don't know anything about everything about astrology, but so you should get into sales and speaking, right? And it tells a story. But maybe you won't get into speaking until this planet moves into your 6th house. That is how I read this natal chart. So these numbers 1 through 9, it starts with what is your personal energy number? And that is something everybody can find out. I'll share the link so you can share it to all your listeners. I have a really free, easy guide that based on your birthday, you find your personal energy number and element. And so let's say your personal energy number 1, and 1, as we can see here, for people just listening, imagine a floor plan with a pie chart over it. So it's pieces of the pie, and each piece of the pie is a different direction: south, southwest, west, northwest. And then there's a grouping of 4 numbers in each of the pie wedges. And if your personal energy number is 1, here we see 1 in the west pie wedge. 1 is water, and it's paired here with 8, earth. That means a lot to me, but in short, Feng Shui is all about balancing the 5 elements to experience harmony and balance and peace. 5 elements are fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. Well, when we have water here, this is you, and we have earth here, we're missing metal. We're missing that smoothness in the elemental cycle. So for this person, I'd say, oh, this is your office, add in some metal. Well, that can be circles, that can be silvers, grays, metals, that can be actual metallic pieces. And that's how we know how to decorate with it, which is where most people, they like only know about the decorations, right? They're like, oh, I should paint my wall red for fire. And but then you place those things with the intention of supporting your personal energy, supporting the goal. And that's that layered process. So yeah, each of these groupings, and then these red numbers here. So the 4th number in each of the pie wedges represents the year. So these will change in 2024. But these base, there's always a base. Again, similar to an astrology chart where you have a base, like where everything is when you're born. But then 2024, 25, 26, planets move, things change, things shift. And you don't have to like repaint, and you don't have to knock down walls. It's sort of comes down to like, how do you reacquaint yourself with your space, and how do you use the directions appropriately? So if you're trying to manifest more money, well, we look for the money energy and we do our best to put the office there. But if we can't put the office there, then we try to journal about money there. We try to at least open the windows there. If there's a direction that helps your health, we want to make sure there's no sharp edges or broken windows or broken doors, and we want to keep it clean, right? So that our health is supported. And yeah, so it's just this, it's another way too. I love how Feng Shui kind of brings you to the present, and not even kind of, it can really bring you to the present. If you're feeling like life is out of control, it can be really hard to meditate. If you feel like life is out of control, it's really nice to have something tangible to do. And I find that if you can't meditate and you're feeling anxious, but you can't work and you can't really take action on anything you don't want to work out, you look at your Feng Shui floor plan, you say, okay, over here is where some clarity is. So I'm going to go sweep, or I'm going to just open the window. I'm going to like breathe in the air for a second and know that my space is supporting me because I have Feng Shuied it, right? I've set things up with intention to support me. And it's just much more tangible to be able to like move things, shake things up. And it makes cleaning way more fun because you're like, I'm cleaning, I'm helping my money energy. Like otherwise, why clean? Like it's boring to clean the dishes. But if you know your money energy is by the sink, makes cleaning your dishes way more exciting.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I wanted to understand something as well, like for people, that might be thinking, oh, like, I never even checked when was this house built, or like, is the birth date of the space, is that when it is finished? Is that when it is starting? Like, at which point do you choose as this is the date for the start of this like space?
That's such a good question. It's actually, it can be kind of tricky. Nobody's ever asked me this before. So in summary, it's when people move in. It's when the first person moves in. So, when you go online and you look at like Redfin or Zillow or these real estate websites, it'll say a built date. And often that's pretty close to when people moved in. You can tell when I work with people, I will start to say, like, have you experienced this in the house? Have you experienced this in the house? Was the husband the one more drawn to the house? And the chart will, in fact, mimic their life or agree with their experience. And if it's really disconnected, we know we have the built date wrong. Like, we know something is off, which is pretty fascinating. That's why it's so cool. That's why it's so cool to, I forgot what I was going to say. It's all cool, but it's one of the reasons, like, you should get it checked before. Let me share the screen again. Why you should get it checked before you buy the house, because it's cool to see people and their connection to it and to watch how the home sort of picks you. So in this case, if we're back looking at the floor plan, in the front of the house is the southwest and the south, and you have this 6 and 6 here. So actually the person whose house this was, his personal energy number was a 6. And you can see where people are I'm like, I know why you bought this house without asking me. I know why you moved in already. You're drawn to it because literally their personal energy number is often right at the front. And so that's great. And I'm glad they feel connected. But you want to confirm that, like, the money energy is flowing, the health energy isn't trapped. You can really be drawn to something, but you want to make sure that the rest of the energy is in your favor. Because very often people say, like, oh, I love this house, or I'm never going to move. And, if they're asking me for advice on should I move, then I say, well, yeah, you need to, because the energy is no longer, like, flowing in your favor. So yes, you should move. And they'll say, why? But I love it, because their personal energy is right at that front and they love it. But I'm like, because your money energy is not accessible, or, so it's very interesting. Yeah. It's interesting to see how a house chooses us a lot of times.
And to understand, so for people that perhaps, like, they are not buying a house, they are moving in somewhere, renting a room, and they are not able to choose everything in the house and things like that. What can they do, like, in terms of the Feng Shui, if they know, like, okay, like, I only have a say in what goes in my room and I don't have a say on what goes everywhere in the house because it's not my house. What kind of things can they actually do?
Yeah, that's another thing, right? It's like saying, if people say, I don't want to Feng Shui until I'm in my dream home, it's like people saying, I don't want to hire a trainer until I already have abs. Like, Feng Shui helps you get where you want to go. So you absolutely do not need to delay or do not wait putting off Feng Shui if you don't own the home, if you're only in one of the rooms, that's okay. With Flying Star, what's really great is that you see this natal chart, you see this bigger picture, and okay, well, the backyard has really good energy. So you don't need to decorate it. You don't need to change anything, but just putting your energy in this environmental, helpful energy where you journal instead of the usual spot, just even mixing those energies. It's like when we see where this different energy is, again, in these different pie wedges for people listening, right? So if we see in the northwest pie wedge that maybe that's not your room, maybe that's the rest of the house that you don't have any say over the decor or the arrangement, but you see in there that that's where your, like, love energy is. And you're really looking for a soulmate. You're really looking for your partner. That is where you should go, like, journal about that or simply feel it. It's like standing closer to the Wi-Fi router so that your email goes out faster.
Yeah.
So you don't have to, Feng Shui being the study of how your environment affects you. Yes, the tangibility of moving your stuff and your couch, and you should really think about the objects because all objects hold energy, but it's really just being in the helpful energy. So it doesn't always have to be, I decorated it correctly. It can simply be, I opened the window in that direction. So I have a friend who lives in her parents' house. She lives in the basement. She was looking for a new job. And this was exactly the case. She was like, this is my parents' house. I'm not decorating any of it. I'm not. And if my parents found out I was doing this, they'd think I was a whack job. So as she's applying, though, I was like, okay, but when you send out your resumes, I want you to go to the back porch and click send from the back porch. And when you're searching for jobs, I want you to be in the kitchen on your laptop searching for jobs. So nobody has to know what you're doing. No, and nobody will ask you like, well, why are you doing it from the kitchen? And then if that's still too weird, if it's still not possible, you can shrink this large one and just put it over your room. So it's called a Taii, and you can shrink this pie looking compass and you can put it just over your room, and you can do it on a micro level.
And I assume that basically one could do that, like if one works in an office, like one can, in a sense, do that for their own like space, their own desk.
Your office. Yeah. And then like, but do it in a larger view too, and see which conference room is better for you. And as often as you can, reserve the conference room that's better for your energy, right? Or like, yeah, but you can shrink it to your office within the larger space. And that's exactly, that kind of goes back to the answer about when somebody lives in an apartment, do you look at the campus? Do you have to function the whole building? I do. I look at a large scale, and then we shrink it down to just their apartment.
Yeah, cool. And one of the things that I wanted to ask you as well is like, when someone is like looking at this and they're like, oh, I have no like because this is one of the things that I find a lot of times, and what you were saying, oh, this is a little bit weird. This is like thousands of years, right? Like of ancient wisdom tradition. This is something that has supported so many people, and this is something that perhaps a lot of people are not seeing scientifically proven, but there's plenty of people like you that you shared, and plenty of people that I'm sure that you have worked with that see this, and it's like, well, this doesn't need to be like a weird wacky thing. This is like quite tangible things, and it's about the intention. It's about an understanding on interrelationship. It's an understanding of the elements and all of that, and at the end of it is about harmony, right?
Yeah. So Feng Shui is a part of Chinese metaphysics. So Chinese metaphysics, there's 5, oh my gosh, it's 5 major arts of Chinese metaphysics. And there's like mountain, which one of them is mountain, which is the Taiji and Qigong. Then there's herbalism, right? There's acupuncture. And Feng Shui, one of those 5 major arts is physiognomy, the study of, it's like face reading and palm reading, but Feng Shui falls into physiognomy, the study of form. And so, yes, if you believe, and again, you don't believe in acupuncture, I guess, but for lack of a better word, if you believe that herbs help you, if you believe that Qigong or Taiji or meditating or herbalism helps, Feng Shui is just a part of balancing. All of those balance the elements in their own way. It's the same: fire, earth, metal, water, wood. Acupuncturists balance that in your body. Feng Shui balances it in your space. And again, all of them look to achieve harmony and balance and this peace, this peaceful flow of qi. Acupuncturists, they poke and prod you in certain areas so that qi, life force energy, is flowing in your body appropriately. And Feng Shui is like acupuncture for your space to make sure that qi is flowing and breathing in your space appropriately.
Yeah.
And there was something else you said that, the believing. Yeah. So then sometimes like I'll have clients attracted to me that are like very religious, and they're worried. They're like, okay, and I don't know, like, I don't want it to go against my religion or this or that. Feng Shui is just using the energy to your advantage, and energy is neutral. So energy does not care what religion you are. Just like gravity doesn't. Gravity is just energy, right? It's this calculation that keeps us all pulled to the ground technically gravity is space in our environment. And gravity does not only hold certain ethnicities, certain religions, it holds all of us to the ground. And that's how Feng Shui is. So you can believe whatever you'd like to believe. You can pray to whoever you want to pray to. And it's simply just there to support you and your intentions.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think that is important for everybody listening is that, yes, we can start with more like one size fits all DIY things. But if we want to actually really go not only deep, but go personalized, we need to understand that we need to make this personalized. Like we can't expect, like I cannot expect all of my life to suddenly feel harmonious with my environment if I am not actually looking at my specific environment.
Right. Yeah. And the horoscopes are always the best analogy. You can follow the guy on Instagram telling you about the cycles, and you could follow the full moons. Like personally, I take off the 3 days around a full moon because I am worthless around that time, not inspired, not doing anything. So, I do that. Like that sort of hits us all differently. You watch those patterns. But in terms of when I move or invest or anything, I actually practice Bazi, which is Chinese astrology, not Western. But yeah, you can just getting more and more specific. But there are generalized things that people can do that might be helpful for them to hear.
Yeah.
So some basics, some of it to some people, it seems second nature. Like they're like, this seems intuitive. And I do think, yeah, a lot of it is in our DNA. So Forms Feng Shui studied how it was prosperous to have mountain at the back, water at the front, right? This stability, the support, the strength behind us. So nobody could sneak up on us and kill us. And then the water in the front where the goods and the abundance and the ships come forward. Seems pretty obvious, but also we have that DNA in us to understand. So now let's look at our bedrooms. It is best practice to have a solid wall at your back when you're sleeping and facing the front door. People come in through the front door. You want that protection, that wall, that mountain at your back when you're sleeping. Same goes for your desk. You want to be able to, it's called the power position in Feng Shui. You want to be able to see who's coming in the room. Like you never see a CEO whose desk is facing a window and like the main door is coming, right? He's in a powerful position. He is the king of the room. She is the queen of the room. The servants come in or the people from the village come in, and then we bring it to this modern society of like CEOs in their offices. Like their employees come into the office in front of them, not behind them. So that's this power position of this mountain at your back, support at your back.
Beautiful. Awesome. So
from bedroom to office.
Yes, like that's great. Like just basic things that we can all check if we are doing that, and like if possible, if we're not doing that, making a change and see how that actually impacts. One of my friends, one of the things that she does, and I don't know where this came from, whether this was Feng Shui or what. Like she actually changes every week the direction of where she sleeps, and I was like, oh, like that's interesting. And I don't know, like it works for her and her husband, so I was like, cool. It's embracing sometimes a change that perhaps thinking about it like perhaps intuitively there's some energy that isn't flowing all of the time, so therefore they just change the direction of how they're sleeping. Yeah some people do really get specific and like examine that, and sometimes it is intuitive. I'd say it is really good to frequently wake up the objects in your space, to frequently wake up your stuff. If you feel stuck and stale and stagnant, think about the last time you've rearranged your living room. Think about the last time you've changed the images on the walls. Think about the last time you cleaned the piles, right? Like, is your stuff just sitting stale, and has there been no new change? Because everything is energy, not only us, but we forget that our desk is energy. Every book is energy. Every piece of paper is energy. And
That's why like the Marie Kondo stuff works really well. You know how she says like hold every single thing and ask if it sparks you joy and get rid of it. That's why like cleaning out your closet can be so liberating because it's like all these past memories and this stuff and everything holds energy. So yeah, whether you're moving it that frequently, like your friend, and you're rotating all the time, great. But it certainly will surprise people if they're feeling kind of stuck. You know, that's the second tip. So check your desk, check your bed. Are you in the power position? And then if you're feeling kind of stuck and stale in your life, maybe that you have zero desire to clean anything up because you're like, how are these two things correlated? But they're absolutely correlated. When you make space in your space, you're making space to receive new things, new people, new opportunities.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you, Jeanette, so much for that. And if anybody's interested in checking out more of what work you do, potentially work with you and find this, you know, like the natal chart for their spaces and to understand how they can use the energies for their benefit, where can they find you?
The easiest way is to follow me on Instagram or on YouTube. Both are at Elemental Clarity. And if you'd like to look into one-on-one services, the link for that is right there in my Instagram. The link is also on the About page on YouTube. So those are great first places to start.
Beautiful. And I'll put the links there on the show notes so that everybody can find you easily. And, you know, like if everybody that is listening, let us know, you know, like, are you using Feng Shui? Are you not using it? Did this spark, you know, an interest in you into understanding more? Perhaps started with Google, then go more specific and checking out Jeanette's work. Let us know what you learned from this episode, what resonated with you. I'd love to know. Keep the conversation going.
Me too.
Yeah, and thank you, Jeanette, for being here, for sharing with us as well. It's been a pleasure to have this conversation with you.
Thank you so much. That was very fun.
Yes, and thank you, everyone. And we'll see you all on the next episode. Bye.
What did you like the most about this episode? Take a moment to think about what change you can make in your life today.
Share your conscious action on social media using #ConsciousAction and tagging @ConsciousActionNZ so we can celebrate your impact on the world and create a ripple effect.
One easy action we would love for you to take right now is to share, like, and subscribe to this podcast. This will help us get these messages out into the world and inspire more people to take conscious action in their own lives, contributing to the better world we hope for.